Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to be introducing File I/O. File I/O allows you to write files directly to the player's hard drive and then read those files back in-game. This works for single player, local area network, and official Battle.net Online. In order to read those files, a registry value for Warcraft 3 has to be set. And this is why this wasn't really used in the past. However, this library will write a script to the player's hard drive in the case that this registry value is not set. And then there will be a boolean inside of the game that you can actually read to see whether they have it set or not. And then you can tell them to run the script. They do have to restart Warcraft 3 after running the script, but they only need it for reading files. So they can play through your game once, save all their stuff up, then when they want to play through again, they need to restart Warcraft 3, that way they can load it up. And then they will never have to do this again unless they go on another computer or reinstall Warcraft 3 or something crazy like that. Also, because the information is written to the player's hard drive, it doesn't really transfer from computer to computer. You can copy and paste the files and so on just fine, but you actually have to copy and paste it. File I/O has a really simple API. Only a few methods, a couple of fields. It's really not that hard to use. To begin with, that variable that checks whether the player can read files or not is not set until after the game starts. So we actually have to wait for the game to start. So what I'm going to do is execute a method here. And I'm executing it so that I can do things like trigger sleep action, trigger sync ready, and so on. Because this function I'm calling here, called wait for game to start, has trigger sync readies and trigger sync starts in it. And what it does is it just waits for the game to start. And this can be found in the game start library, which is on the Hive Workshop. So after the game starts, woo, game started. We can move on. And I'm going to make another function here, just for the heck of it. Do stuff. And I'll call that. Just to keep the stuff from being cluttered. So call do stuff. In fact, let's do call do stuff. And do stuff, I'm going to declare a file. But before we do this, let's go ahead and check if the player has local files enabled or not. And we do this with the enabled field, which is just file.enabled. Then call do stuff. Player has local files enabled. Woo. Else, if they don't have local files enabled, we can still write files just fine. We just cannot read them. And so when you want to save information, you don't have to worry about that. But for reading, it's going to return empty files every time because they won't be able to read those files. So for file not enabled, at the start of the game, you should let them know somehow, a message, a multi-board item, something. You should let them know that files can't be read at the moment, so you can't load codes. Just some simple message. And then you should tell them how to enable those files. So file tells you where the script is written to, that script that allows players to enable files. So run this script. And then it will be file dot local file script name. And when I run this on my machine, it's not going to display this message down here because I already have local files enabled. But if you do run it on a machine without local files enabled, it'll display that message. You just go run that script and you're done. It'll be in the main hard drive at the very top, so it's not hard to find. It'll be on the C drive. Most everyone's main hard drive. Not everyone's, but most. So let's go to the do stuff now. They have local files enabled, everything's cool. Let's start by, how about writing a file? To write a file, the very first thing you need to do is open a file. So this returns a file, so set file is equal file.open, and this takes a map name, a file name, and then finally a read-write flag. And these are really simple. There are only two. It's either read or write. And since we're writing, it will be file.flag.write. The file is open. So let's go ahead and write some lines. Call file.write my first line, call file.write my second line, and call file.write my third line. And then all we gotta do is close the file, and it's written. In order to read the file, we go back and set file is equal to file.open my map name, my file name, and then file.flag.read. Now, once again, this information is all local. It's not synchronized to any other player in the game, so you'll have to use another library like network in order to synchronize the information in the file. If you're just reading it for the local player, that's all fine. So we open the file. Then let's go ahead and make some string variables here really fast. So local string line 1, local string line 2, and then 3, 4, 5. We'll just make 5 of them. And then we'll go into read the file. And you do this with the read method. And it's pretty simple, file.read. And this will get the very first line. If we call it the second time, it will get the second line. And it just reads on all the way through the file until there are no lines left. And it still even reads after that. After there are no lines left, it just doesn't return anything. So third line, and then we can go for a fourth line, even though there is not a fourth line. It only goes to line 3 here. And then we can even go for a fifth line. And then let's go ahead and try displaying these 5 lines to see what it actually displays. So the very first 3 lines should be these 3 values up here. The last 2 should have nothing in them. And then we should go ahead and close the file out here after we're done reading it. Save that. And then test map. Right here. And my first line, my second line, my third line, null, null. So it read the contents right out of the file. That's literally all there is to file I/O. Just this right here. There's nothing else. If you want to synchronize the data, again, that's a whole other topic. But just doing plain old file I/O, this is all you gotta do. If you want to write integers, you could do call file.write 55. If you wanted to load it up for this fourth line, you could do local integer I up here, and then set I is equal s2i line 4. So that's the fourth line right here, right? And now this will be 555. If you want like save load codes, you can write the save load code to the file and then load it up as a string and then decode it. And there's really no limit. Each line can have like 1,000 characters, and you can have like 4 billion lines or something. So for synchronizing, there is a practical limit of maybe 10,000 integers. After that, it's just going to take too long. 10,000 takes a little over a minute, so that even is probably a little too long. You can do 3,000 like 3 seconds, so that's a pretty good limit to follow. And that's a lot better. 3,000 integers, they're all 32-bit integers over maybe the 80 you got out of 120 character save load code. It's just a way bigger limit, so you can save a lot more information without having to worry about size or anything. Anyways, that concludes file I/O.